What's up, Wrap Shop Academy? Today, I wanted to bring you a video of 26 lessons that I learned in 2025. Now, this year has been incredibly difficult. I won't sugarcoat it. Um, Everything has felt like an uphill battle. I think most shops are feeling it, that with the political nonsense, all the distractions in the news. I mean, dude, you name it, it has happened in 2025. Frankly, I think the last 5 years has been a circus. Uh, but that is the world we live in today, and I just wanted to reflect essentially on this last year. I've been doing a lot of deep diving into our industry, really researching, really trying to break down this industry to create a recipe for success, essentially. Similar to other businesses, an HVAC company knows exactly what the play is to grow and scale their HVAC shop. So I've been pondering on that very much so. So in this video, it's just going to be a recollection of the entire year. So without further ado, we'll hop straight in. So the first lesson that I learned in 2025 essentially was that specialization over diversification of services. It is insane to me how terrified I was to relinquish all the additional services. And I talk to shops all the time, and it's like I offer tint, apparel, hats, screen printing. I saw one guy doing like auto detailing, commercial wraps, and it's like, dude, these are all like horizontal skills. And I only offered, just a few of these, and it was terrible. It was painstakingly difficult to hire for one position, much less look for the unicorn who might be able to cross-train all these services. In my shop, I've gone through a multiple series of cutting services and or changing the offer within our shop. And a few years back, we cut signage out of my shop, and it was about $400,000 in revenue. And we replaced it with retail tint, PPF, ceramic coatings, so that at least we weren't outside of the shop anymore doing offsite installs, and we just had the team inside. And it was a little more parallel of a offer than, say, signage was, because I was doing permanent signs, etc. And this year was our first year that we just about cut all PPF, tint, ceramic coatings as far as the Design It brand goes. And we went all commercial. And since doing that, the doors that has unlocked, we say as a shop that we want the big fleets, we want this type of customer, we want the whales. But the whales aren't picking you because you look like a mom and pop shop in many cases. The whales want to work with commercial specialists in most cases. Now, you absolutely can stay true to having all those services. However, I think it's going to be a very difficult journey because I was talking to a shop up in the Northeast, pretty close to, I believe it was Detroit, Michigan. He's doing really good for his area. His community is very small, but he offers apparel. He offers vehicle wraps, and he offers permanent signs. And he has 8 employees on his staff at roughly $800,000 in revenue. And my immediate look on that was like, I'm sure each one of those employees on their own right is pretty effective, but there's just not enough work to keep people busy at all times. And then not even to mention your marketing channels to keep that sufficient. to me, while I've gotten very fixated on this simplification of my business, is because I truly feel that for every bit of waste that we have in our business is equal to a negative opportunity for the staff we employ. So, let's just say essentially the ability to go all in on efforts for one or two channels of, let's just say, marketing. It's much easier to hear the feedback loops that are coming back to you as to what is occurring in the business. Why aren't we making sales? Where are we bleeding from? Who's making mistakes? And it's a lot easier to solve the problems. When we were offering multiple services, even, all in one roof with the PPF tint and ceramic coatings, it was like death by 1,000 paper cuts, basically. It was just like we were hemorrhaging somewhere and I couldn't figure out where. And it could be for, I never actually truly dialed it in, but cutting back and going down to one has been very simple to grow and scale the shop. In fact, going to just one service allowed my business not only to lose, another, let's just call it $600,000 probably roughly in revenue on the retail side, to doubling the business. So not only did we go backwards, but we doubled the business forward on commercial work alone. So the type of client we picked up was much better. We have a lot more reoccurring orders from singular clients, etc. My final thoughts on this, on my lesson learned, is that it seems obvious, but cutting back all of those services allowed us to have a much more effective hiring process. Most of us really struggle to find really good help. And then you multiply that across multiple services. And then now you only have to work on processes for one series of workflows. And you can also create a much cleaner marketing effort and brand voice for your business. The second lesson that I learned is our industry, including myself this year, I had a great deal of beliefs removed from me. The amount of opportunity in this industry is astronomical. You might think that, I can't remove all these extra services because there's not enough revenue. Odds are you only have this much market share in your market. Recently, we had a conversation in our business with a potential client. We're pretty high in the runnings on this. I certainly hope we win it. If we don't, the amount of lessons and just the mental unlock that there's even a possibility of this occurring has got me excited. This company needs essentially 300 units wrapped monthly indefinitely. And I think that the overall push is something to the tune of 16,000 units over the next several years. One company. So there is no shortage of work. If you're worried about the garage shop wrapper who's underquoting you, those were not your customers. But this business is growing and there's so much work that can be had. And some of the biggest limiting beliefs that we have in this business is that this is not a scalable business. In fact, I've been seeing a lot of pushback on the type of stuff we've been putting out to where, stay small, keep it all. The only way to grow and scale a business is to cheat your customers, and all these negative connotations with these limited beliefs. And I'm just like, hey guys, what happened to you that, makes you think like this? I'm genuinely curious. I'm happy to have a debate or conversation about this as to why you feel this way. And in many cases, it's actually the people who have been in the industry for a great deal of time, but I think that they had given up on learning new skills, not horizontal skills. I don't mean going out and learning how to tint and PPF and ceramic coat when you already know how to wrap. Like it's that's kind of like going to war, and let's just say you have a lot of pew-pews, and you got 100 in the armory, but you can only hold 2. So it's just one of those things where it's just like the skill sets are phenomenal. I love that people are learning how to do more technician type work, but is it really effective? Or is it just busy work? Is it truly effective to continue to learn more labor? Or is it more effective to begin to learn how to multiply your labors? Learn how to lead people. It's hard. I mean, frankly, it's the hardest thing to do. Dealing with people is hard, but in many cases, the hard things are greatly rewarding. I would dare to say kids are hard. You're not going to give up on them. If you have kids, and if you're a dad or a mom, you're not going to give up on your kids just because it's hard. So essentially finding the belief that you are capable of fostering or creating and cultivating an environment in which somebody can grow and create opportunities just like you have. It's totally fine for you if you want to stay on the technician side and you truly love the install. Follow Jim Miller. Literally copy Jim Miller, period. And there's a couple other install codes that are very similar, but we do need installers in this industry. But don't just be you, the installer. Eventually, multiply installers beneath you in which you run a team. That is much more effective and more beneficial to the whole industry, including yourself. So the third lesson that I've learned, and it's really been over the last 2 years, is you must trade time or money to grow. Now, we've all heard this one, and it takes money to make money, blah, blah, blah. But a lot of people say it takes money to make money, but then they never actually use the money to do anything. Now, I want you to think about a scenario here. Let's say money is like water, okay? And what happens to water when it doesn't circulate? Right? It turns into a swamp, and it turns into a cesspool, and bacteria and algae and all these other things, and eventually it might even become inhabitable. Whereas a river that is circulating has a whole ecosystem, right? Now, simpler put, when I first started working on leaving my business, I did the most extreme version of trading my time or money. I was making multi-six figures, typically to the tune of about $250,000. And I don't say that to brag. I just say that to say, like, one, that's a capacity that an installer can absolutely make as an owner of a business. So if you don't think that you can reach that, like, I'm just allowing it to unlock. I am using myself as a walking example of what are the possibilities to the most extreme degrees, okay? And so whenever I left my business, I just ripped myself out of the business. I decided that I was going to trade all my money for time. And I lived off of $40,000 for that whole first year, just about. I didn't make any money from Design It at all. Now, a lot of people may say, well, that doesn't seem like a really good trade. Bear with me for a moment. I now have an operation that runs entirely without me that still pays me something. And now it's a matter of optimizing. And then finally this last year, it was optimizing. And there was some really tough spots, and we're still optimizing. Like, we had a very large team of about 12 people. We're down to about 8 right now, and we still grew in revenue. And so we eliminated all the waste, we dialed in the efficiencies, and we built just monsters on the team, essentially. And now this next year, that business might actually still pay me the same as it did 2 years prior or more, and it requires nothing of me physically, only my mind and the ability to inspire people to have opportunities within the entity, essentially. My job is to make sure that I'm meeting the goals of the people that I employ. So I'm like chief fun officer and chief goal officer, if you will, at that point. So that's the most extreme version of trading time or money, and I don't recommend it. It's just I was that unhappy in my business that I was like, I'd rather light all this money on fire than to have it be this unhappy. And it was because I didn't do anything about it for 10 years. So be somewhat curious and put a specific percentage each year in which you would put, let's just call it like a curiosity fund or a leadership fund, in which you try to become a better leader. Now, I coached a particular person this year, and this person called me. He was a very similar situation. He was making pretty close to 300K, and really good shop, just family business, just growing kind of slow, but it required a lot of him. And his son's going through that high school phase and playing football, and probably going to go to college and play football and get picked for a college team, etc. And he didn't want to miss out on that. And I was like, well, list out all your duties that you're doing currently, and then also like allocate what of these duties do you not like doing. And essentially he enjoyed the development of people, but he didn't enjoy all the little tiny like management components of like front of house to the production department. And he wanted to kind of run that back end, and they run kind of that front end. And so he essentially needed an operations manager. And I was like, well, have you ever met an operations manager that you like? And he's like, actually, we do installs for this one shop, and they hired this operations manager, and since that person's been employed there, they've like tripled their business. Now, obviously it wasn't all because of that one operations manager, but I was like, okay, great. So you have a employee that has been employed by a similar business who understands the role and has also seen growth. Take the person to lunch and ask them, what was it like starting there? What are their duties? What are their responsibilities? What are their likes and dislikes about the role? What could the owners do better, etc.? And like just record the whole conversation and then throw that to ChatGPT, create a job profile for that position. And he's like, well, I think that position is going to cost a decent amount of money. And I was like, yeah, absolutely it is. But dude, you're making $300,000. Could you live on $225 for 6 months? And he's like, yeah, I can. I was like, okay, great. So you're going to take a step back whenever you make these big A player hires, but an A player is going to make you money or a return on investment in maximum 6 months. Like, they should at least be breaking even to where you return close to your original income profile. Sure enough, he put some ads out. We helped him with creating some of the putting the job on wisehire.com, creating some friction, a couple of hoops for these people to jump through to show that they are truly somebody that can follow direction, as well as eager to be employed for this position. And he's had that person now for almost a year, and he's like, dude, I almost don't have to work now. Now he has to manage and lead the team, but he doesn't have, he literally relinquished like 75% of his responsibilities to somebody that's probably even better than him just for $75,000 a year that he didn't actually.
Wrap shop owners, when I was growing and scaling my vehicle wrap shop, there was absolutely zero business education. All of the main manufacturers focused on only teaching me how to install vehicle wraps. Nobody showed me how to run a business. And for that reason, myself, Dan Workman, and John Duver founded and created the Wrap Shop Academy. The Wrap Shop Academy is built and developed for you to be able to grow and get a grip on your business so that you're not repeating the same year over year. Our goal is to provide massive impact within your business and teach you how to be more than just an installer. So if you're interested in the Vehicle Wrap Shop Academy, click the link below, book a call with me, and let's take your business to the next level.
Need. Now, it's nice to have $75,000 on standby, by all means. But having that money just sitting over here and doing absolutely nothing with it, when you could recirculate it back into the marketplace and hire a rock star, give them some opportunities with some bonus structures, etc., let them do better than you, and now you actually receive additional money on top of that 75K? Because a good operations manager is going to return dividends to your business. Same with hiring an installer. There is profit to be made and also opportunities to be created for that individual when you employ them. So start changing up your mind on how you play with money and how you leverage that resource. I had a couple conversations with a couple people that are like, one guy, I'll end it on this. One guy, I talked to him. He's a single employed, he's a solopreneur. He's doing almost $300,000 in revenue, and he told me he felt like a failure because he can't figure out how to hire somebody. And I was just like, you hire them, you have the funds. He's one guy doing 300K. I know shops that can't do 300K with two. So he's absolutely crushing, but he's running at a sprint pace while doing an ultra marathon. Like, how many years can he keep that up? Now, he's young, but how many years can you keep that up? And if you watch this, you know who it is, because I've had a lot of conversations with you. But all he needs to do is just hire an administrative position, and it can even be a virtual assistant at first, to just let him keep installing more and do less of those tasks. And he could probably squeak out another 50 to 70K pretty easily in his business and immediately recoup the funds that it costs to hire that position. So the fourth lesson that I learned in 2026 is essentially slow to hire, fast to fire. We have been really strong on the back of house in our business for some time now, because that's what I fulfilled first, and we worked our way towards the front of house. And we have been greatly working this year on our sales process. Essentially, there's very few wrap shops with really strong sales teams, so the bar is set really low. Most wrap shops don't even call their customers back. And so we feel like this is like the one lever that you could pull to like just dramatically change your business. And so we've drafted out our sales program, what the compensation structure is going to be, and we feel that it's massively fair. We feel that year one for a killer, they could make 70K to 80K, and then year two, it would immediately revolve into like six figures plus. So if they could keep all the same accounts year two, plus continue to get the residual from, essentially if they could get the residual on year two from all of their existing clientele, also getting the new customers, then that salesperson easily could make 150K a year plus if they're just a unit. And even if they're not, they could still make six figures pretty easily, because we allow for that account to not be, it's essentially their book of business. And so every repeat order would reinstall a commission to them indefinitely. And so the point of that is we want the salespeople thinking big, because if they could work on today's leads, but also be working on like their own Dream 25, customers, then they can land a whale, which will just pay them massively over and over and over, and then that's their job to nurture and care for that independent. It's their responsibility essentially to take care of that independent account. Now, we've probably gone through almost 10, if not 10, salespeople this year, and it's a really hard position to fill. We've got all of our other programs really dialed as to what is expected of the people. So like our installer program, week 1, if you can't install a HUD by the end of the week and have presentable edges, maybe it's not perfect, but it's like pretty good. You might be at risk of termination depending on how coachable you are. Things like that are all really dialed for all the other positions. But with sales, at first we were really loose. We create like a runway for them, and they get 90 days worth of salary, and then they go to commission. And that's our obligation to basically train them, etc. The first couple of salespeople that we hired, we kind of like let them run like about 60 days out, and we're like, yeah, this isn't going to work. And we didn't really hold them accountable to their calls or appointment settings. So we basically changed it to week 1, just like the installer with the hood having to, do XY function and or be at risk of termination. Then we basically set the standard of week 1, your job is to set appointments, period. Outbound calls, that's your job. Lead comes in from the website, cool, you're calling them within 5 minutes. And their target was essentially 100 calls per day. And if they didn't meet that, then they would be at risk of termination. And most of them, that first week, were like, no shot 100 calls a day are even possible. And it is. You can do 100 calls in 4 hours. I've personally done it, and I'm willing to put myself up against anybody to challenge that. You can definitely call 100 customers in 4 hours. Anything else is surplus, and you are capable of having great conversations. So the next few that we did, we have all of our pricing dialed. They don't need to know about the wrap service process. They don't need to know much about anything. It's literally, hey customer, my name is so-and-so with Design It. I was just calling you to see if you're available tomorrow at 3 o'clock to book appointment with our wrap specialist. Yes, no, maybe so. Cool, awesome, bang, that's a call. Like, you're just setting appointments, and that way you can attend that appointment. Well, we've had no such luck. And then the last one, I think we were just beat up and battered, and we put a lot of weight into this person. They were actually a fleet manager of a HVAC company, and we were like, no shot this guy doesn't work. And sure enough, we gave this guy just so much, we broke our own rule of not following our own standard, and day 90 rolls around, we rolled him to commission, didn't show up to work. So basically we were his bridge to get from one job to another, and he did just enough to stay on the team. The point of all this is that you need to set clear and measurable goals at 30, 60, and 90 days. And if they are not being met by any position, terminate and find the person who wants opportunity that you are willing to give. I love people. It sucks because it sounds like I'm cold-hearted, but it's more that I have hired now enough people to realize that no matter how much you love somebody, you can be taken advantage of. And that's okay. Because if you're taken advantage of, it's because you allowed it. Just like that last sales guy, we allowed ourselves to be taken advantage of. The last thing I'll leave with you that I have learned is, as you're growing, let's say it's your installer and you got like a lead installer guy that's been with you for a while, let him do the actual hire. So like when I hire, I used to, I made the mistake about a year ago where we were going to hire somebody, and I didn't do the interview, but I hired the person on accident. And my ops manager was like I was just like excited. I was like, "Hey, you're hired." And Letha was like, "Why did you do that?" And I was like, "Well, what do you mean?" They were like, "That person's never going to report to me now. You just stole all my power." Like through their eyes, you hired them. So therefore you are their boss. You are their leader. They are not going to report to me. And they didn't. So if you have a back of house or a front of house situation, sometimes be thoughtful of this. Should you actually do the hire, or should maybe you build a leader in the back that is actually in charge of that and let them also deal with managing that person, which also means that that person would have to be the one that terminates it. That's our rule in our shop, is that if you hired them, you fire them. So it's an interesting perspective, but it could be that that person in the back is actually the one leading them. And if you hire them, then you're going to take all of their power away. That's a little extra nugget there. Lesson number 5, delegation is the hardest skill. You can see I wrote these in an order, right? So one of the hardest parts about delegation is essentially allowing people to fall flat on their face before they even ask for help. And the biggest thing that helped with me with this process was I would control burn, if you will. I would make sure that if they were working on something, I would reach out to my customer, because like the problem with delegation is they're your face, right? That's why you're controlling this thing, is because you've worked so hard to build up this reputation around a certain thing, and then now you have to trust somebody with that reputation. Hey customer, I just hired so-and-so and I've trained them up and they're at the point now where they're going to be taking over your project for XY responsibility. I just wanted to let you know in advance. Please, could you do me a favor? Just at the end of the deal, work with them. I understand it might be a little bit different. It might take a little bit extra time, but just shoot me some feedback. That way I can continue to train them better. We're trying to make sure to serve you guys to the highest level. And if we keep working on only going through me, then I'm going to become a bottleneck, which is going to result in me serving you to a lower level. Therefore, this is something we must go through together. That's transparent. It's a little vulnerable. Hell, your customers are also business owners in many cases, like if you're a commercial rapper. So like they understand. And when you do that, they're more than happy to help. And in fact, they probably wish more people would reciprocate with them to let them know if their customer was, or their employee was not operating to standard. So there are ways for you to control it where you're not micromanaging, but you can still verify. And that is a lesson that I have. Again, I put myself as like the most extreme example. I feel like my job on this planet is to just break beliefs. And if this year essentially has been Operation Don't Go to My Shop, sometimes I really wanted to, just because I do enjoy my shop, but it has literally been basically at this point 2 years that I have physically not been in my shop, but it's all been trust but verify. I'm very attuned to the pulses of data that are coming through my business of what I need to know. But I'm not actually seeing everything. Instead, what I'm doing is I'm only reporting to 1 or 2 people as far as getting this feedback. And even that, I go and verify. Now, the other issue with delegation is, especially like the reason why I kind of created or fabricated that, like, hey, reach out to the customer thing, is you're going to have some customers that are like your OG customers that just don't want to deal with the other people. And it sucks because it actually so my staff actually joked for a while. They called them my back pocket clients. And it's the clients that I've had forever. And like they were my great customers. And I say that with quotes, not because they weren't great customers. It was just because if they were truly a great customer, then they would want me to grow. If they're a great customer, I think I have more friends from doing business together with people than friends that I end up doing business with, right? So if they were truly my business friends and support me in my endeavors, then they would understand that I would probably want to grow my business. And in many cases, these people were much larger than me and had teams that they delegated to as well. And so I found it very hypocritical. And in fact, the biggest unlock I had on this was Austin Cook with the Tent Institute. He basically said that, you know, if you trust me enough to do business with me, then you should also want me to grow. And if you don't trust the people that I hire, then that means that you don't trust my business because they're an extension of me. My job is to hold them to that standard of me, but you must allow me that opportunity to do so. And man, this was hard. Like it is very hard to let go and trust people, but it is highly worth it. So lesson number 7 is systems and processes are non-negotiable. Please do not do what I did. I literally ignored this for 7, 8, 9 years in business. And we're coming on to 14 years in business in February. And, you know, at the moment that I actually started like building legitimate SOPs and like extracting things out of my brain or out of the key role members on my team's brain, like we were already doing 7 figures in the shop. And it was just a complete disaster because you have to slow down to do some of these things. Like they're important. And unfortunately, you also then have the obligation of the duties that you're trying to fulfill. It is very painful. The further you go in your business and you don't handle this, the more it's going to hurt. And I really feel like this is the thing that almost broke me. Like trying to get the information out of my head to where everybody was coming to me, asking me the questions because I was the key man. And they're like, hey, how do I do this? How do I do that? What would you do if this? What would you do if that? And instead, it's turned to now of, you know, have you visited what is the procedure for that? What is, you know, did you look at the training manual? No. So that's the first place to look at. If it's not there, then come back to me, let me know, and we will make sure it gets added. Because if not, you are answering the same questions every single day. And you will eventually grow to hate your business. Because you're not... You ever gone to business? You ever gone to work in a day and it's like you go to work with to-do list and it's your to-do list, and then the whole day you're handling everybody else's to-do list because they're asking you so many questions and asking you for help and asking you how to do this or asking you how to do that. And then at 5 o'clock rolls around, you look down and you're like, shit, I have gotten nothing done on my to-do list at all. Do that for 6 years and tell me that you're going to enjoy yourself. Like, it's miserable. Don't do that. Now, frankly, like the biggest lesson on this that I have learned this year is just document everything. Seriously, like this whole like YouTube thing or like recording stuff has helped me so much with how I handle things, to where when I'm having a team meeting with the team, I record it. If I'm having a conversation with anybody, I record it, and then I just ask it. Like, let's just say you're having a sales call with a customer, or you're having a like a follow-up, follow-through, whatever it may be, and you record it on Google Meet, through your CRM, whatever it may be. You can literally download the audio file and say, what did I agree to? Because sometimes you get in the thick of it whenever you're talking to somebody, and then you agree to something and then you completely forget. At least I do. Like, I am very forgetful about little micro things. Like, I'm great at the macro things, like getting the job done. But there might be like, maybe I said that I was going to sign myself up for giving them some free stickers or something like that. Like, these are the little micro things that really matter that I forget, or that I said I was going to do it by X day. Like, record and document, and then leverage AI to write SOPs. I'm going to do a video later on this of exactly what to do and how to do it, but loom.com is the best tool because it gives you the transcript automatically, and the application doesn't record on your employee's device. We actually had, a person I was coaching, and he literally documented all of his SOPs in his business. Like, he's like, dude, we spent like 6 months doing it, but I didn't do it on my phone. I did it on my employee's phone, and he quit, and he won't give them to me. So just loom.com is like $10 a month, and it hosts the video on your account automatically. So they hit record, it's as if they're recording on the phone itself, and then it goes straight to the cloud. And then it transcribes it, and then you can take that transcription, put it in ChatGPT, and polish it up. And don't even bother like being perfect on your training. It is better for you to have really crude and rough training manual than to not have anything at all. And you can over time revisit it. And or as you're starting to delegate more to the individual that's doing it and say, hey, the next 30 days, I would like you to revamp all of the training for that position. Or I want you to do section 1 this month, section 2 next month, whatever it is while you're doing those activities, to where it is now more refined because that individual has more bandwidth than you do to try to do all these things. Lesson number 7 for this year was consistency beats intensity all the time. Now, I believe this so much harder than I ever have. And a lot of it's because of what I have done this year. I've been doing this for multiple years, but especially this year. Let's start with the rap side of things. But basically, most of the time, whenever we say, I'm going to grow, like January 1st, I'm going to go to the gym or I'm going to start working on my business. And you start working on your business. And then like all the dopamine wears off like week 1, or like this curveball hits you. And then all of a sudden you stop. Everybody says, I want to work on my business, not in my business, but you won't even allocate 30 minutes a day of on your business. You're not even good at working on your business yet. Understand that that's a skill in itself. So working on your business, a lot of people think that just means like, oh, I'm going to remove myself. And no, that's going to cost you a shit ton of money like me. But if you could dedicate 30 minutes to an hour of just non-negotiable time on your business, let me tell you the power of what 1 hour will do. So this is going to be more of a physical metaphor, but it's going to make a lot more sense because sometimes we can't wrap our head around business, but because it's like this intangible thing, it's like this squirrely path that we have to go. I started off at 315 pounds, and all I did was walk 2 times a day. So this was 3 years ago. And I was 315 pounds. I'll put a picture up here. And all I did was walk every day, twice a day for 75 hard. And I lost 50 pounds or so just by walking. And then I doubled it up. I was like, well, I can walk and talk. So I did my sales calls at the same time, right? or like my coaching calls or whatever it was, but like I doubled up the time because I was just walking. But that was just hour, 75 hard, so it's an hour 45. But after that, I decided that, I was going to start running. And the reason I was going to start running was because it's the fastest way for me to get to this little internal dialogue of this sucks, this is horrible, I hate it. I'm 250 pounds, I'm not a runner, right? I'm still not a runner, but I still do it. And basically, let's come back to this year. I completed a 250-mile run by piecing together 1 hour runs daily. So, which is more believable? That you spend an hour a day in your business, working on your business, and you actually get somewhere, or are you running an hour a day and completing a 250-mile ultra? So, obviously there was the day that I had to work completely on running in order to build my volume for that, which was Saturdays. But all the other days. Literally, it was just 1 day a week. And this is literally like this is why I run. It has given me the biggest business advice of any other activity that I've ever done, and because it just correlates so much. It's slow. You don't improve very fast. It's not fun. It's boring. It sucks. It's all these things. And the whole time, your mind, you literally can just stop. You can just stop running and it's over. It's done. But I basically Monday off, Tuesday 1 hour, Wednesday 1 hour, Thursday 1 hour, Friday off, Saturday 3 hours, Sunday 2 hours. That was my regimen. And then as I got closer to the 250, it was Monday off, Tuesday 1 hour, Wednesday 1 hour, Thursday 1 hour, Friday 1 hour, and then Saturday was like 4 hours at the peak. No, 6 hours at the peak, but I was slowly ramping up. But like, you can work a whole day on your business on Saturday, right? So the point is the intensity slowly came up, but the week, the bulk of it was just 1 hour a day. And it was just more about stacking it brick by brick by brick by brick. And you can achieve a whole lot more with consistency than you could ever imagine. And yeah, that's basically it. Like, which is more believable? You working an hour a day on your business and becoming successful, or a 315 pound man who was completely unhealthy and completing a 250-mile run in 2.5, 3 years? Like, that should just grow your business, guys. Lesson number 8 this year for me is attention is currency. I have never really marketed at all. I've never bothered with videotaping anything in my businesses, etc. And frankly, I regret it. If you look at, you might make fun of Paradox the Rapper, or you might hate on Jay the Rap Specialist, or any of these other guys on Instagram that are recording and documenting everything. But tell me how many people who have recorded and documented everything and posted it on a very frequent, consistent schedule that has failed. Very few people, because it's a lot of work for one, but two, it's putting eyeballs on your business. Most shops don't have, not all shops, but most shops don't have a technical problem. Some of them have low standards on what they put out, but usually if they take their time, they're capable of putting out a good product. Most of us have an awareness problem. Most people don't even know you exist. It's a fact. You don't exist. Therefore, they can't buy from you. So I highly recommend people start documenting what you do. Don't make it all about business. You can make it about family as well. You can make it fun. You can make it about whatever you want it to be, but post it pretty frequently, because a lot more people will see it than you think. Just like this page. Not a lot of people will watch these videos, but the amount of impact it's had on people, and the amount of people that out of nowhere years later is like, dude, I've watched everything. And I'm like, well, that's weird. Thanks for leaving me a comment and letting me know that it was good. Because sometimes it's very quiet, but over time, this documentation of what you're doing, people are watching it and they're silently supporting you. There's more people that will silently support you than be vocal about it. And then when the time comes, you no longer have to, if you document correctly, for example, if you just say you didn't document you installing, but you only documented your client's experience upon the pickup, and you asked them, let's just say, a series of 7 or 8 questions, and then you put that out to where you now have a series of testimonials about your work. And then if a new prospect comes into your shop and says, well, why should I choose you? They're $500 less. And it's like, well, instead of me convincing you, why don't I just demonstrate? Here, watch. Look at all this evidence. Show people. That's the cool thing about documentation. And not to mention the documenting the process and going in line with building a systems and processes, like you get massive amount of leverage with video content. For example, this channel is really small, and you guys have spent 90 days of watch time with me that I didn't spend with you guys. Think about the leverage on that. And this is small. Like, this is not meant for entertainment and for views. It's small. And yet there was 90 hours of allocated view time on this channel with less than 500 subscribers. So highly recommend documenting, recording more, putting it out there. YouTube is very strong for SEO, by the way. So you putting out videos of like vehicle wrap install for XY company name by XY company name and then like county, like that will pop up in Google search. And it can also point to your website by putting like linking it up in the description, and that more customers can find you. Again, you have an awareness issue in most cases. Lesson number 9 is basically like time. Most people do not respect time. This year, I've had a very fickle relationship with time where like I'm learning how to, whenever you start working less as a technician naturally, you start to kind of feel like a hypocrite and you start getting some imposter syndrome. At least I have. And this methodology has allowed me to kind of like come to like understanding of what that is and like why it's good and why it needs to be done. And essentially I'm using Thomas Keenan's framework from his book, Unfuck Your Business, which is, are you working on $10 an hour task, $100 an hour task, or $1,000 task, or $10,000 or a $10,000 an hour task? And I'm gonna break down what each one is. So $10 an hour task is like running to the bank, doing your accounting, taking out the trash, like delegate these first. Now your $100 an hour tasks are doing things like finding new prospects for hiring, doing sales for your business, marketing. These are the things that immediately in your business that where you guys are at right now, most likely where you need to stay at. Now, the $1,000 an hour task is where you will take and work on your systems and processes and vision work and coaching to and growing your brain and creating more capacity within the business so that your employees can grow within it. And then your $10,000 an hour tasks are just spending time with family and working on your personal health and well-being and public speaking or orating and becoming a better communicator, leader. This is where I have spent almost all my time this year, is in family, health, and orating or speaking. And it's interesting because I'm not working as much physically at all, but the amount of leverage that it seems that I'm having an impact in my businesses is much more effective. Now, it took me a long time to get there. It took me, 3 years of chipping away at this. But even just when I first started, like truly, I was just wasting so much time on these little dopamine hits of like a little bit of this and a little bit of that. And like, you're just busy. You're not actually effective. And, there's a great framework around this. It's even simpler than the task is basically like you have inputs, which is your effort that you apply. That might be like, I work really hard. You probably do. But do you really feel that my shop, I'm working on a much high, like, it's not a brag, it's just for the sake of the comparison, but like, do I work harder than you if you're at $500,000 and I'm like 4, 5, 6 times that? No. So effort applied works, like it ramps, right? And then it trends like this and flattens out. Eventually, effort has a massive diminishing return. Then you have outputs, which is basically the work done. So this is like, I did 5 cars this week. Okay, so that's the diminishing return that you're starting to reach essentially as you catch moment or velocity, if you will. And so it could be like, I sent 50 emails, but they didn't get replies. I'm basically working out a little bit, but I don't really have a plan. I'm not really getting any momentum. But once you start optimizing your time for outcome, meaning like you're sending something out, you're putting effort into it, and then you're starting to track how many like units of effort or like completion that you're doing, what is the outcome? What is the result? So like if I make 100 cold calls and I made 0 closed sales, then I might need to brush up or audit why I didn't close any sales. And then over time, I start to do another 100 calls and I get 1 sale. Okay, I got a little better. Why? Okay, now I'm starting to measure my outcome instead. What are my results? And how can I optimize against the result of what I'm doing? So example, I traded all my money for time. Okay, cool. That was optimized. Now I'm hoping to see that return on investment. Now I'm wanting to optimize for the outcome, which is the return on investment in which I get all my money back and my time, right? And so in simpler terms, I also hired an admin and I'm no longer having to schedule people and I'm no longer having to make sure that they're showing up and I'm no like what is the outcome that you are optimizing for? I hope all that makes sense, but like it's a tangent that I've kind of like really been going on and it's hard because sometimes, especially as we grow on this path, we don't see the outcome as fast. And so sometimes it feels like we're not working on the right thing, but really it's just like the things that we're working on are much bigger and grander. Therefore, the outcomes take longer to procure. Lesson number 10 for me was get a line of credit. I have always been a cash guy. I've never been a levered type guy. I didn't understand it. I was not raised that way. But fortunately, I have had a line of credit on standby at all times. And there was a point this year in which we had a shift in the type of clients that we were working with because we modified the business, right? We had a lot of cash flow coming through with the retail type stuff. And then we're switching to these larger accounts with fleet management companies. And a couple of them do make us do terms. And we negotiated though. Instead of net 30, we got like net 15, or we were able to get deposits plus net 30. And then one of them, he was having to pay us in full up front because he didn't want to split the payments. And we were like, we're not starting your project without it, but we didn't want to lose the account either, because if he found somebody else that would work in our area and could do what we were doing, then naturally he would leave because we were creating friction for him. So we basically pitched him on like, hey, if you want to give us everything in the Southeast, we'll do net 30 terms. So we just pitched it in a much bigger way. But the moral of the story is, for the first time in 13 years of business, I had to lean on a line of credit in order to cover my expenses just because of the type of work that changed or shifted, right? We had really big opportunity. We took those really big opportunities, but also comes with, potential change in cash flow sometimes. And so having $150,000 in line of credit on standby, it literally kept my doors open for the 1 month that I needed to receive the money from the works that we had completed. So as you grow, you are going to eventually need to lean on some form of line of credit, possibly, and or have sufficient funds in reserve to where you can be the bank for your business, but talk to your accountant about that. 11, defining your standards before hiring somebody. I covered a lot of this on my tangent on one of the prior lessons, but basically, like, in my business, I've learned that optimizing for much higher pedigree of staff is much easier to deal with than it is to have a suboptimal employee. Somebody who's not going to hold their weight, it will also degrade sometimes, like you as a leader are viewed by how you hold people accountable. And so I guess the add-on to that would be I've had 8 or 9s for employees that were rock stars, and then they see somebody that's like a 5 or a 6 getting away with stuff, and then it kind of actually brings them down because the the bar, if you will, kind of gets lower. They're like, oh well, if that's acceptable over there, then I can do the same thing. So just optimizing for 8s to 10s on your hiring, to where it's going to cost you a little bit to do so, but what it does is a collective actually elevates the total sum of output that the group does. For example, my installers right now are installing somewhere to the tune of $650,000 to $700,000 each of revenue per installer. And that's phenomenal, right? We have one production guy that's actually facilitating production for all of that, with the sometimes help with a contracted person that comes in and cuts down stuff in a pinch for timelines. But overall, every person has a very high metric of standard in their positions. And if we start to allow for people to fall below that, then I think it'll actually kind of like lax up the team a little bit, and it'll degrade the total output of the collective unit. The 12th lesson that I learned is, your why in your business and what the business's vision is, just how important it is. All of the core people in my business that were a part of the team are still in place that I expected to be in place. And even though I have not been in my shop in over 2 years, somehow they still see the vision and still see themselves part of it. And it's really, really, really amazing to witness. It's one thing to say it, but it's a completely another thing to actually witness it occur within your own entity, and basically just see that everybody's on board for that common goal, and that they trust me in driving that ship towards that goal. I'm very fortunate that I was able to have the story that I have, where my mentor essentially sold me the business for $25. And, he made me make a specific promise, and that promise was that I would always take care of people, and that I would always take the opportunity to help other people grow if I was afforded the opportunity to do so. And that is a big reason why I even do this, is because it's a way for me to ensure that I honor that promise. But yeah, having a strong why in your business, where everybody is on board for that future vision, just massively impactful. I finally truly got to see it in action, especially this year, because there was some trying times. 13th lesson in 2025 was that the shops winning right now didn't get lucky. They were the ones that were just consistent. The last couple of years, even post-COVID and everything, like, money was just free and abundant in regards to doing business. I really feel that business at this point has gotten back to a little bit more normalcy. And there's a lot of people that just got used to customers just handing out, especially in the color change world, just handing over money and not being terribly contested, PPF as well. And you got to hunt. Like, at this point, like, it's back to contact season. Like, we got to fight for leads. We're going to duke it out. We're going to have to build value and truly establish a offer to the customer that makes sense, that shows them and validates why they are choosing us. I don't think it's been that way for a little while. It was back in like 2013, 2014 when I was first starting. And then the marketplace got really good. And then COVID happened. There was a little bit of scare. And then it just got like insane for there a little bit. But this year, we've definitely had to fight a lot more for the leads that we do get. I do feel strongly that 2026 is going to be a very strong year in the marketplace. That's just an opinion of mine. But I am seeing, a little bit of callous with the news occurring right now. And I think that we should have a great year. Lesson number 14 is something that I have thought a lot about. And it's basically the sum of people who you surround yourself with. Like, I have finally spent enough time around a diverse group of people that opportunities that I could have never imagined have been essentially opening for me. And, even the conversations that I'm having are completely different. And it was a big, massive focus. Like, this was more than just a 1 year lesson. This is really the last three and a half years or so. But I joined a lot of masterminds. I've participated in a fair bit of coaching where I've been coached. And a lot of those people have become friends. Now, it's frankly really weird. Now, what's really funny is my girlfriend doesn't quite understand this, but she's basically like, you kind of pay to have friends. And I was like, yeah, it's weird, but you're right. And I've been paying for a particular mastermind now for 3 years, and it's not been cheap by any means, but it's been incredibly worth it. And what it is essentially it's a filter. The level of friendships that I'm having and the level of conversations that I'm having by paying to be in a room means that these other people paid to be in that room too. And whether I'm in the bottom of the pyramid or the top of the pyramid of that room, I usually typically try to be the bottom. And that way I'm having just completely different conversations. Now, what do I mean by that? Like, if I was to have, let's just say, spent all my time around my local demographic and or at just rap conventions, like, this is not a knock to the industry. This is just the direction that I took. I was looking around at the landscape and there wasn't a lot of shops that publicly, there's a lot of great shops out there, but they're just not very social. You're not going to really know about a lot of them. But I didn't find anybody that I would be like directly aligned with that I really was like, I would really love to have their business. And the couple that I did, like John, I literally hired him as a one-on-one coach immediately when I bought the business. Well, this group opened up a very tight-knit, like, limited offer. They were going to interview everybody and you had to be chosen. You couldn't just pay to get in. And that wasn't false scarcity. It was truly like, I think there was 300 applicants and they chose like 60 and then 30 of us paid. And it was like $25,000 to join this mastermind for a singular year. And I don't believe they had a payment plan either. And the level of people in that room were on a completely different level than I was used to. Now, back to what I was saying, if I had hung around my local group or if I had gone to just like local conventions and I started talking about the dreams that I had for myself and what I wanted to do, it would have been like crabs in a bucket. It would be like, well, what about this? Or no, don't hire people. That's scary. Like what you see basically on some of the Facebook forums where it's like, stay small, keep it all, and all these like bullshit things that people cope with. And, it's true, but it's also completely wrong. It's true on their perspective. But I started hanging around a guy named Trevor Calley, and I was like, man, this guy's smart, but he's also like I'm just as smart as him. And he wasn't book smart per se, and nor am I, but like he was totally just like a bro guy that was just like, I'm gonna send it, I'm gonna be consistent, and I'm gonna get it done. and his word was his bond. And so like, I'll give you an example because it's hard for me to explain it without you potentially have experiencing it. But when you're on a run with somebody and then you tell them something like, I want to move internationally in the next year. And this is what happened 2 years ago. And he just says, okay, well, what needs to be done? Instead of like, well, what about this and what about that? And like, oh, you shouldn't do that. That's dangerous. And all these things. He's like, do you really want to do that? I was like, yeah. And he's like, okay, so what do you got to do? And I was like, I don't know. And like, he literally just like, I started like piping off excuses as to why it had to be a year further down the road. And he's just like, dude, go right now. I'm like, but I can't because all these things. So like now I'm the limiting belief, not my circle. And he's like, listen, all the problems that you're trying to solve right now to do that thing, they're not that thing's problems. So if you don't go today, you're not solving that thing's problems, and you will not experience moving and not living near your business's problems until you do it. And it was just a big eye opener. And then that's where, I met Dan. I think I met Dan before that, but Dan ended up joining the group. And, here we are. We're doing business together now. And, I've mentored under John, and now we're doing business together. So surrounding yourself with the right people opens up so many more opportunities. So audit the people that you are closest in proximity to. Are they holding you down? Are they potentially a cancer in your life, or are they bringing you up? Which is it? And if they're holding you down, you might need to reconsider your circle. But just audit your circle, and it has literally changed my life. Fabricating my circle using money, again, back to that circulation thing. I put it out into the world to be circulated, and it's for some reason always has come back to me. It doesn't always come back to me in the same timeline that I expect it to, or in a very linear fashion the way I wanted it to, but it has always come back in dividends by far. Lesson number 15, doing more that is, than what is required. Like, these two really go hand in hand. I am best friends with people that used to be my mentors at this point. And the reason why is I always went massively above and beyond on everything that was told to me. For example, I mean, this is just like a me thing. It's very like a selfish, I feel good thing. But I put posts out into these groups all the time where I do free one-on-ones with people. I won't book more than one call, but I'll do free one-on-ones to really like secure a plan and help somebody move forward if they are stuck and for some reason just don't have the means and or don't have people that they can associate with, that they can lean on for advice. And I just want to be who I needed, right? But in those calls, that call is exactly the same call that I would give to somebody if they were paying me. I don't gatekeep. I don't hold punches. I give everybody 150% of me, no matter what, whenever I'm doing something for somebody. And it's tough because it doesn't always pan out for me. And sometimes when I say pan out, like sometimes it is a net zero return or a net negative return, but it doesn't matter because I'm truly giving anyway. I expected nothing of return. And I'm fortunate and happy and grateful that I'm in a position that I can do that. That's why I said it's a selfish thing, because it's not an ROI for money, it's an ROI on how I feel. The reason why I started helping people for free originally was because all of my personal identity this last year was wrapped up in, being an installer and a technician. And I had to go through this detox in the last year, in 2 years, of removing that from my identity in regards to like how I received validation. Not that I don't want to be an installer. I still enjoy that component, but all of my validation and internal self-worth came from that. And so whenever I removed myself from the business, then I also just removed all the validation for myself as well. But without a doubt, doing more than what is required has always returned something, whether it be $0, but skills. So example, I have been talking to people. There was what was it, 2 weeks ago, I think I did 6 hours of conversation over the weekend for complete pro bono. My girlfriend's out of town and I'm just on the phone the whole time. And she's like, "You're not bored?" I'm like, "No, I love like talking shop with business owners. Like it's my favorite thing to do." But I get to practice seeing how much impact I can make on somebody. There may be a day in the future where I don't have that anymore and then I might long and earn for it. But like right now, I'm going to enjoy this process of bettering my communication skills and how much impact I can provide to somebody for zero return at some point. But it's holding true to my mentor's promise and it is developing me. So I do get something out of it. And so what could you be doing in your life, whatever it may be, that is just much more of you than you might be doing, that is potentially a unrecognizable return that you are missing out on? So lesson number 16 is essentially to plan your life first, business second. What do I mean by this? It is actually more effort right now for me to turn off my mind from work and enjoy myself and life and fruits of my labor, etc., than it is to work 60 hours a week still. I am basically like a recovering addict, and it's gotten much better, but it is a very difficult thing to overcome. What has really helped me by far, without a shadow of a doubt, is my girlfriend. She lives for life experiences. She extracts the essence of being present in a moment and enjoying it and creating memories. And you know, sometimes I'm like, "Hey, leave me alone, let me work." But you know, just going with the flow, and technically, you know, if I'm going to say that I'm doing the hard thing, then actually going out and living my life is harder, right? And so I've started to enjoy more, which is interesting because it seems like the more experiences that I've had, the more perspectives that I've gained, the more gratitude that I have for things, the more I get to actually ponder and think curiously about new situations within my businesses as well. I get to actually define something as to, you know, I get to own my business instead of it owning me. You know, I think some of it was ingrained into me. Like growing up, my dad was always a hard worker. He always worked overtime. But something that is very introspective that I've kind of come across, and I've really been like thinking about this idea, is that for many of us entrepreneurs, what we don't realize is working in our business is kind of like our safe place. And in many cases, we actually enjoy it more than we do the home. And that's a problem when you think about it like that. Like if you enjoy your work more than the home, then you will have problems down the road without question. And I definitely fell into this trap. same with delayed gratification. Like, I am all for it. Believe me. I think that there are seasons of grind. There are seasons of hustle. There are seasons in which we invest, but it needs to be just that, a season. It's something that I've gotten much better doing with Deanna is there are times where I'm like, hey, like this December, for example, I've been like, hey, I really need to work a lot. There are going to be days where I'm basically going to be here, but I'm not here. And she supports it. But then I also make sure to give back and make sure to share adequate time in the other direction as well, so that there's a little bit of harmony. It doesn't have to be balanced. Number 17 is most businesses manufacture their own problems and they get distracted too easy. Now, what I mean by this is every time something starts to work, like let's just say we are a commercial wrap business and things are going really good. And we're like, you know what? I'm going to add more revenue to my business. And then we go and throw window tint in there. And it's like, what does window tint have to do with our core competency? Nothing. But it can create more revenue. And we get all these requests for that. And it's like, yeah. But you also get a lot of commercial wrap requests. And I'm not saying for sure that it's right or wrong, but I can just tell you that every time that you mix something up or you stir the pot, you end up actually creating a lot of problems or difficulties, because it's just as hard to learn that new service or add that new service as it was to do the first service. And it's just as hard to start extracting new client bases for it. And what's really interesting and like where this came from was business gets really simple when you distill it down to its fundamentals. And we were looking at our forecast for next year. And we were looking at like if we wanted to grow by X. And let's just say it was $3.5 million. Okay. So we want to hit 3.5 million in revenue on this forecast. And from there, we only needed to wrap 6 units a week if we added an outfit to every single one of them. And I was just like, why would I ever do any other service? Why would I not just be out there hammering the phones, making sure to network, be at the right events, build relationships, ask for referrals, all these things to get more of that one thing, because I only need 6 a week? Like, that's a joke. And it was just because we were elevating the average ticket rate that much. So instead of being at like a $3,000 average ticket rate, if we had a combined ticket rate with the upfitting plus the vehicle wrap, then we would be at an approximate $10,000 average ticket. And so we only needed 6 units a week. That's it. And we would be crushing it and would not have to add much more staff, in fact. And that is what I mean by we get distracted. Like, if we just actually looked at what we have and try to identify how we can refine that, and like, okay, let's just say you are doing window tint and it's like our average ticket's $350. Where in the sales process can we increase the likelihood to upsell a windshield on 50% of the jobs that come through? What does that word track look like? What's our process? Where do we follow up at? Do we hit them again when they come into the shop? Like, does the team understand how to sell, etc.? Because then instead of needing to double your units to make twice as much revenue, now you just have the same units flowing through the shop, and you've basically increased revenue dramatically. Think about how hard it was to sell the first customer and persuade them to come do business with you. It is much easier to resell the same person more than it is to get a new customer, by far. So massive lesson learned. It only took me 14 years to figure that out. And now it's just like, man, how can I do more of that one thing? And which lakes and ponds do I need to go fish in? Like that's it. The lesson number 18 for 2025 is understanding offers, frameworks, and packaging. Man, this one is massive. I still haven't dialed it in, but I'll give you an example. And I'm not going to shoot myself in the foot here. It's just more that we've done so many with this. But like, I'll use Torque CRM as the example, and then I'll tell you where I'm trying to head with it with wraps. And it's been really hard with wraps. But with packaging, or like how you make an offer to a customer, how can we make it look sexy? How can we also make it irresistible? How can we make it where, as Alex Hermazzi, are too stupid to say no to? And with Torque, what we started to do was, there's offers and then money models, right? And what we started to do was, hey, customer, if you do the year, I'll give you the white glove onboarding service for free. But what was actually happening is like we were already crushing onboarding, and we were accidentally white glove installing the jobs anyway, because we've always been more service oriented, right? Now, we changed up a few small things to make sure that we weren't like it was a clear, like distinguished, like for sure, like there's a beneficial gain to do that. But it came from like when we weren't as busy as we are now, transacting, that we would, hey, no problem, we'd get you in here, and we were like, yeah, sure, we'll set you up, and we're just doing all this labor, right? But we were doing it anyway, and we were kind of like doing it for like half price / free, and we were like, well, we're already doing it, why don't we just get the injection of cash up front? So I started testing it, and sure enough, like, man, I was like 70% close rate without being like, I'm not a pushy sales guy. So truly people buy what they need, and they understand their means. So I will never force anybody into the wrong avenue. But I would like, yeah, by the way, if you want us to like rocket fuel this thing, we could have your like process map dialed, everything done, good to go. So we added some extra value to it to make sure it was distinguishably, like, for sure, a great offer for them. But if you pay for the year, you then get the white glove onboarding process for free. Now, what does that do? It increases the likelihood that the customer is going to be vested on the platform for a year. If they bought it for a year, they're probably going to stay, because in our data so far, we've had very low churn, that once we get somebody into our ecosystem for more than 3 months, they stay. Very few customers have left that have stayed for more than 3 months. And so we are not only guaranteeing that they're going to stay in the ecosystem, but also we're getting all the cash up front rather than it slowly coming to us throughout the year, which is better for marketing. It's better for, creating new, buying new systems and investing into the platform, etc., because we're accelerating the volume of cash that's coming to the business. Now let's go back to wraps. So with wraps, it's like, what is the offer everybody makes? It's like, my corners are better, or I'm better than the other guy. Like, it's not a very value-driven sale or offer. It's like, we have the best materials. It's like, yeah, so does everybody else. You're not exclusive. It's not like Avery or 3M materials are like this exclusive thing that you can buy only if you're a certified person, which, it's a different argument. But there's not a value stack offer that makes it like where it's like, okay, that actually makes sense. Let me go with them. And with the thing that I've been playing with the most is like the pain point with the customers, or like, this is what I've been learning, is that the pain point for the customer in the vehicle wrap industry is time. Their problem is that the vehicle is not on the road making them money in most cases. Now, obviously, if you have the single off units, like those guys don't value their time nearly as much yet. So sometimes they get got like hung up in all the noise or like what the design looks like and this and that. And those are all very important things, but like they move a little slower. But if they have like 5+ vehicles, typically getting that unit on the road is the most important thing to them because they've already spent like $50,000 to even buy the unit, and now they have to spend more money with you. Plus, every single day, it's expensing like $5,000 in opportunity costs. So it's like, so time is actually the pain point for our customers. So what do we sell? We sell time. Like they don't like the wrap. Like yeah, all those things are extra. They're extra credit, but we sell time. So then how can we build an offer around that? And it's like, okay, well, can I do a and this is still in process, so mind you, like don't think this is exactly what I'm doing, but I'm trying to extract the lesson here, is that we want to be able to offer, we will do, and we've tested this. We've actually tested this a couple of times and closed, but we want to be careful with inventory and stuff. Hey customer, no problem. We understand that the other client or the other vendor's $500 less. However, the issue that you actually have is that the unit isn't on the road. So if we can guarantee, like this is a tool, if we can guarantee that we get the unit back to you in 3 business days or less, upfit and wrapped, based on the scheduled date of that VIN, or your money back guaranteed, or $500 towards credit towards future services for every day that we're late. Like some form of accountability metric that we will get that unit to the customer on time. That sounds appealing. Because at the very least, if you are trying to close a deal where they're like, we like our other person, they're just a little slow. It's like, done deal. Just give me one. You have nothing to lose. You said they're 6 days out. I can do it in 3 or 4 or 5 days, whatever the offer is. Then it's a guarantee. And once you can do that and you also hold yourself accountable to it, man, like it actually gives ourselves the ability to close more deals. Another way to look at it would be, first money is the hardest money. And so we've played with this. Like I personally don't have this issue. I think a lot of you guys as owners watching this probably don't have this issue, but once you start implementing sales staff and or administrative people on your team, they are not as convicted at selling the product as you are. So they need tools. And so an example of an offer would be like, like I'll think about it. It's like, cool, well, we have limited spots available. We have 3 more for this month. And all you have to do is just pay the design fee today. And we'll give you, $500 off the wrap, but only for the first unit. And it's just like playing around with these ideas of like how to get the client in to your ecosystem so that you can transact, do a killer job. And then from there, they're no longer concerned about the fighting or the like being enemies. They want you to do a good job because now they're paying you to do so. So getting that deal or transacting with the customer to even allow yourself the opportunity to even take a jab at it is the most important part. And it's just been massive unlock for us this year. Lesson number 19 is my relationship with money. As stated a couple of times, I grew up not necessarily poor, but it was like, if you couldn't buy it, you don't get it. And you definitely don't put it on credit. That's how I was raised. The idea of putting money to work has dramatically changed for me this year. The idea that if I buy a $25,000 coaching program, that I'm going to get my ROI from the information that I extract, and knowing that I only have to pay the $25,000 once. Like, I paid, like for example, I paid for a YouTube class or program rather. It was a year long with Omar El Takori. It was, I think it's a $20,000 offer, and I paid in full to get a discount. And I knew when I was paying that it was going to come back. And it has come back in more ways than just money. It has come back in skill sets and ways that are going to take care of me for much longer. But it was because I bet on me that I was going to do the work. I just wanted to compress the time in which I received the information to do so. I've done this multiple times. When I joined the RBO Mastermind, it was $25,000. That $25,000 I would pay year over year over year because it literally changed my life and my perspective on life, and was the, I guess you could say, like the seed planted to grow in the magnitude that I have. And if it wasn't for RBO, I would have never met Deanna. I would have never moved to Mexico because I wouldn't have been challenged to do so. I wouldn't be operating to the level that I'm operating. So it's just like, where else can I buy? Like at this point, it's like, okay, let's audit the field, because there's a lot of the traps out there. You can't believe everything that you see, but it's like, where else can I spend it? And unfortunately, in our industry, there's very little things that we can invest in. So we have to kind of go out. That's one of the reasons why we created the Wrap Shop Academy, was to actually make a safe place to invest your money on the business aspect of this industry. Lesson number 20 is, the reason I couldn't hire great people. I spent a lot of time on this because I talked to a lot of business owners. And I always reflect in hindsight. When I first started hiring people, the reason why I feel that I couldn't attract the people that I wanted was because I wasn't worth it for the rock stars yet. I was fat and I looked like I didn't honor myself. So why would I honor them? And since then, investing into my personal health, that's the one thing on this planet that money can't buy. And I think your word and value, when you invest into yourself like that, goes a lot further. And so I don't have a lot to say on that other than be attractive, be magnetic. The only way that you can actually attract really great people is by being attractive. And I don't mean physically, I mean metaphorically. So, 21, open loops or tasks, take up bandwidth. So stop leaving so many things open. Now, this one messes me up bad. Now, what is an open loop? Think about like your web browser. Like if I show like no shit, like look at this. I'll show you my notes too. But look how many browsers. I don't know if it's going to show it. I literally have like 15 browsers open. Like I'm one of those guys where I'm a habitual, like next tab. And I actually throughout the day just close the window and I open it back up to whatever I'm working on, and I just one tab. When you have all these extra tabs open, so on your computer, it's allocating RAM or resources to each one of those tabs, especially in Chrome. And the lesson that I've learned is that if we only work on one task, we are so much more powerful. And that is back to one of the reasons why I do endurance sports, is because I'm at peace. Like I'm not stressed at all. If it's just one task, man, I am in bliss. And then I started researching like CEOs. Like, see, the best CEOs on the planet only actually have 3 tasks. Like usually the to-dos for a top level CEO every single day that must be done is 2 to 3 tasks. That's it. Everything else is surplus, meaning like all the fires and all the things that they put out, those are extra credit. But every single day they do 3 key tasks maximum, and that's it. So how many open things did you start yesterday and the day before and the day before that you haven't completed, that you just have open or pending? Like, they're eating up your mind, and that's why you can't think sometimes, and why, like, at least me, that's why I would be like, God, like I would be at my desk, I'm gonna be productive, and then get nothing done. And it was because I had so many things. It's like, if you could imagine if this was a ball of energy, and if I put all my energy only in this direction, the ball would go this way. But if you have 25 tasks and your energy is going in every which direction, like really you're just kind of like fighting against yourself. And so close the window, close out the task, or get it off your list. Lesson number 22, hiring an executive assistant or a virtual assistant. This is the position that I put off longer than anything, and it is the best thing I have ever done. I have literally woken up before at like 8 o'clock, 8 o'clock, and we had a customer that was in a different time zone, and so naturally they were up a little bit earlier than that. And they had a situation, something was on fire, and I wake up and I see this message from the customer, like, oh my God, like I haven't even woken up yet and had my coffee, and I've already got problems. And I start to like investigate, and sure enough, Chester has already solved the problem, hopped on the phone with them, walked them through whatever it was, anything he couldn't handle. He had notes, and he had already booked a meeting to handle it with me at a later time. The customer was seen, heard, and appreciated. And we also went above and beyond and did a follow-through meeting beyond that. Like, this is amazing. I don't even check my email anymore. And he literally watches all my emails. He answers to what he can. Anything else, he screenshots, and I respond in WhatsApp and send it off. He shoots it off to the client. Like, this is in tandem really with the open loops and tasks, because there's so many weird little things. I've even had Chester to the extreme. I had a high school friend that reached out, and he said that him and his family were not going to have a room or like a place to sleep that night if he didn't find a way to come up with some money to stay at this hotel. And I believe this person's been going through some issues with substance abuse possibly, and I kind of, could see through it. But what I liked is that he offered services, and he used to do web design. So I was like, yeah, sure. Like, how about, we can pay per day, and I'll go ahead and book 2 days so that at least you have the comfort of that. And then you can build a website for me for, my name, because it's just something I want to do. And he agreed. And I just, hey, Chester, here's my credit card. Can you please go book a hotel for that guy? Because it was like 6 o'clock at night. Again, I'm protecting my life. I'm not working after hours. Chester works a very abnormal schedule, because there's times where I literally don't ever even text him during the day. But when I text him at 6, 7 o'clock at night, and I haven't texted him at all, he basically hasn't done anything throughout the day. But like, me and him have this like unspoken agreement with each other that like we'll always be there for each other. And yep, no problem, boss. Called it in, got the guy a room, and of course, the guy didn't ever do anything with it, but that's okay. That is how useful, like, there's so many weird little things in the day that that we worry about and do that can just free up bandwidth in your life. So number 23, fixing myself was the single most important thing that I've ever done to my business. I have gone over a multitude of these things, but so we'll quickly recap, but I wanted to include this, that you are the bottleneck in your business. And so whatever you do for yourself will immediately impact the business as well. That means whether you're more healthy, whether you're more fit, whether you have more intelligence because you are putting good things into your mind, whatever it may be, it affects your business. And if you can do all of them together, then great, like superpower stuff, right? And I think that I've heard this from a friend of mine named Raw, and he would go fishing, and he said that those times going out sport fishing and enjoying a hobby was the best times for his business because it allowed him to come up with the best relationships or how to approach a problem, how to solve something, how to create the new strategy for the next year. And it allowed him to decompress and think about stuff. And that is what the endurance running has done for me, because you can only listen to music for so long until you're tired of it. And you can only, like, eventually you're going to run out of podcasts too. Like if you're running for 125 hours, like you're just flat out tired of listening to shit. And so eventually you're going to just get in your mind. And anything that you've been avoiding just comes up, period. And so I've been able to solve and really think about the problems in my business because of fixing myself. Not just that, but also having a partner that supports me is like a superpower. So number 24 is having more hard conversations. Now, this year has been a rough one on the hard conversations. There has been times where I've had to hold my tongue and not say anything because the person that I was having the conversation with is also sometimes the person that allows me to live the lifestyle that I have. But at the same time, they weren't seeing a perspective that I was seeing. And or this year, for example, I had to have a couple of hard conversations with a phantom equity partner, and he ended up getting terminated. And it was because he fell below standard. And essentially, we had a situation where everybody was all hands on deck. We had this really large fleet of like 50 vehicles that we were working on fulfilling, and we were a little behind, not because of us, but we just, bailing the customer out of a situation. They had purchased another service brand and they wanted to unwrap and rewrap these units. And typically when that happens, everybody helps. No matter what, everybody helps. We get it done, and that's just what we do. We're like, we're a tight squad, no man left behind, etc. And so I called this phantom equity partner and I was like, hey, are you going to go help the guys? And originally he had said yes, but I was just making sure. And he was like, nah, I don't think I'm going to go. I was like, well, why aren't you going to go? And he goes, well, it doesn't align to my goals. I don't want to be an installer. And I was just like, well, what other skill do you have? Because like literally he started off as a tent installer and he worked his way through. He learned some PPF, and he was mostly a commercial wrap installer. So he did tent and commercial wraps. And he goes, well, I just want to be a business owner. I was like, well, this is fucking part about being a business owner. Like, what do you not understand? But the bar and the threshold, like it made me physically sick. And I used to avoid, but immediately I just like called a meeting and pulled the contract immediately. I was just like, nah, you're done. Like, you're not, just because we gave you the opportunity to ascend, if you will, in the business, in the workplace, and give you this great opportunity does not mean that you're above people. Like, it's not a pyramid where you're at the top and all these laborers are below you. It's actually more like a pyramid like this, and they are on your back and you serve them. That is how we run a business in this shop. And it was crystal clear that anytime the times got hard, he was not going to come through. And it cost me a fair amount of money to buy him out because it was already predetermined. And that's the next part of the having more hard conversations is, if you are going to have a partnership, no matter what, there needs to be a operations agreement, and there needs to be a hard conversation up front that needs to be had in which you say, what happens when times are good? What happens when times are bad? What happens if we run out of money? What happens if you die? What happens if I die? Like, all of these things, every single argument that you can think of, or debate, or angle, or situation that you can kind of come up with before you sign up to be partners needs to be had in a conversation. What are your goals? Where do you want to go? What is your vision for this? Make sure that there's alignment, because if there is not, it's going to cost you dearly in the end. So this year has been a great deal of hard conversations, including sometimes you have to terminate old customers, etc. But having more hard conversations has actually, they don't get easier, but it has eliminated a lot of the duress or stress or anxiety because I hit them immediately and it's no longer in my system. It's kind of like whenever you want to terminate an employee, or if you have to have that conversation and you haven't had the conversation and you're thinking about it and you're like looking at the person and you feel like butterflies or anxiety or like your head gets hot. Maybe it's just me, but like I get pretty worked up. And so that sensation is not good to harbor. Just get it out. And the moment that you get it out, usually you feel better. Period. And lesson number 25, I saved it for last, even though I could have literally mentioned it first, is gratitude. The amount of gratitude that I have gained for this world, this planet, this industry, people, everything is just immense. Um, I have been afforded many opportunities due to people, for which I am grateful for. I am grateful for the fact that I had all the hardships that I had. Um, but moving to Mexico has taught me even more gratitude than I ever expected, because I realized that in the United States, we don't realize just how good we have it. And we don't realize that we are actually living in a true land of opportunity. And there are a lot of things that aren't great, but there are a lot of opportunities that come with it as well. And, you know, the Latin American culture, just the amount of happy people. There are people on the side of the street sometimes, with not a lot. They're working whatever they can to do things with a big smile on their face. There's two little ladies I saw on my run today. No shit, these little ladies are probably 85 years old. If not old, like they're old. And they're 5 foot tall. And 2 days a week, they walk up the side of this mountain and go up into the same mountain that I run, which is hard, by the way. And they're 85. And they sit down and they pick flowers or they pick up wood. And they're just the sweetest, happiest little old people ever. And I just see that and I'm just like, why are so many people so ungrateful? Like why can't we not enjoy what we have? Um, there's a family that was a taco stand on the corner of the prior house that I was in, and uh, loved their tacos. But then slowly they started doing handyman stuff around the house, and then they started cleaning the house, and they to this day still clean the house, even though they have to travel a little further. We just pay them a little more, and they have always taken care of us as if I was family. William got hurt this year, and I had to take him to the veterinary clinic, and I didn't have a vehicle just yet. And the Ubers here, they don't have Uber Pet, and I needed to take him to the ER to see what was up with him. And I asked this family if they could let me borrow their truck, and they said yes. And that was like almost kind of expected. I didn't expect them to say no, but we Ubered to their house, and I see these people every day, and they're always smiles, everything, but I get to their house, they don't even have a roof. It's like literally a tarp and tin on sidewalls of concrete with like a lean-to door. And they're just so happy. And so I think we get caught up so much in the hustle and bustle of life that we don't truly appreciate our moments that we actually have. And this year has been a magnitude of difference in the amount of gratitude that I have for the moments that I've been able to have, the moments that I'm going to have, the experiences that I have, the opportunities that I've been afforded, etc. And my final lesson, which is that I believe in this industry, and I have been seeing and talking and discussing with a lot of people that are on the come up. And a lot of you guys watch these episodes. And I had that 6 hours of conversation that I had on that weekend. Literally every one of those guys was between 20 and 30 years old. And where they are at in their businesses is just mind blowing compared to where I was at. This young generation, a lot of the old people, older, let's just say 30 to 50 crowd, or like 35 to 50, they like to poke fun at some of these youth crowds, but I think the youth are split in half. There's like the wayward kids that we we won't claim, and then there's just some savages. And the savages, man, the reason why they don't want to work for the old heads in the industry is because you're still holding that squeegee, and they don't see a career with you because you're not growing, and they don't fit into your vision at all because their vision is much bigger than some of these people that have been in the industry for 20 years. And I think we're seeing a massive growth over the next several years in the vehicle wrap space. You're seeing technology improvements, all kinds of stuff that is here to stay, and we're gonna see some rock stars just come out of nowhere, guaranteed in the next 5 years. All the old heads who have been in the industry for 20 years, like our achievements are going to be nothing in comparison to some of these young bucks that are coming up. So I see you guys. You guys are crushing. And any of the older guys who are finally starting to adapt, I see you guys too. So much love to everybody. This has been a lot of fun to record. It's a little bit more of a serious episode. But I just wanted to share where I'm at, my lessons, and hopefully something that I have learned affects somebody out there and gives you a different perspective to look at stuff through. So thank you so much, and we'll see you on the next one. Peace.